Insperity presents the Small Business Advocate Show with Jim Blasingame, brought to you by FedEx, CareerBuilder.com, and Palo Alto Software. This is a copyrighted production of Small Business Network, Inc., all rights reserved.
We're back. It's 12 after the hour. Thank you very much for hanging out with me. I'm Jim Blasingame. You're listening to the Small Business Advocate Show, and I'm glad you're here. I'm glad Ted Fishman's here, too. Ted's a longtime member of our Brain Trust, a great friend of ours, the author of a number of books, including China Inc., which continues to be a very important book. And his newest book, his latest one, is called Shock of Gray, which is a study, a very important work and study of the aging of the planet's population. And he's here today to talk to us about a little bit of a tangent of that last book. Ted Fishman, welcome back to the show.
So glad to be with you. I've been watching the news in Spain about their debt crisis, and
they've got a serious problem over there. They're probably the next. I mean, they're a bigger form of Greece, aren't they?
Oh, much bigger. Spain is huge. Spain's the 11th largest economy in the world.
Yeah.
It's the size of California, Oregon, Washington put together, their population. And, they have a very large debt-to-GDP ratio, which is...
What is it? What is that ratio? Do you know?
I don't know. I don't have the exact ratio, but I do know that it's really big, but smaller than ours.
Is it more than 1 to 1?
No, it's not more than 1 to 1.
Right. Which is what ours is.
Yeah, actually, Spain's in crisis, but their debt to GDP ratio is smaller than ours.
Yeah, but they've got sovereign debt issues, and because they're out of cash, aren't they?
They're out of cash, and they're also in the eurozone, so they can't print their own money.
Yeah, or devalue their own money.
Yeah, or devalue their own money.
Yeah, devalue their currency, and so they've got some problems. Their bonds, the interest rates on their bonds are going up, right?
Yeah, the interest rates on their bonds are going up, and every time it ticks up, it becomes enormously more expensive.
So is Spain going to collapse?
Well, it doesn't seem like they're going to collapse quite yet. The central bankers in the eurozone keep saying they're going to do whatever they can to prop it up, and so far they haven't actually done.
Don't their banks? Aren't the Spanish banks also in trouble?
Yeah, Spanish banks are in trouble. Initially, the Spanish government said they would not be bailing out Spain's banks. Some of the biggest enterprises in the world are Spanish banks.
Mm-hmm.
So when you say you're not going to bail those out and they look like they're teetering, then you put your whole economy at risk. So they've changed their tune on that. But the question is, what would they bail them out with? They're already so strapped.
Well, and then, but the thing is America has tentacles in the euro banking system. I mean, there's plenty of money, plenty of assets going back and forth between U.S. big banks and euro big banks, aren't there?
Oh, there absolutely is.
So as Spain goes, so could go some of our own banking elements.
Well, yeah, we are certainly at risk.
Yeah.
And it's not just our banking element, it is our whole financial system in which, we exist in a world of, you could think of it as snaking arbitrage where, debt is connected to debt everywhere in the world.
Right. So what about one of the things I know you've been tracking lately is how the families in Spain have been dealing with this because the country's really in turmoil right now, isn't it?
Yeah, well, one of the things I talked about in Shock of Gray was the Spanish family because I spent a lot of time in Spain. It is, by some measures, the oldest country in the world. It has one of the lowest fertility rates in the world, which means family size is as small as it gets. But the family structure still seems very, very important in Spain, and families stay very close. They visit one another regularly.
Right.
There's a lot of money that transfers among generations.
The people are getting married later. They're having children later when they have children, and it's not uncommon for an adult male, especially in his 30s, maybe 40s, to still be living with his parents.
It's quite common, and or to be living alone. You know, one of the things that's happened in Spain is that its urbanization came very late for Europe, and women went to the cities in much bigger numbers than men. So when you go to the countryside and you go to small villages, they very often have very, very few women there, and it's also common for them to actually
this is
have
dysfunctional, isn't it? Isn't it, Ted?
Well, it's dysfunctional in some sense, and it's just
demographically
transition.
It's dysfunctional.
Demographically dysfunctional.
Yeah.
But it also sheds a light on how strong the family can be when things are stressed. Because what's happening in Spain right now is that the family supports, which used to go from the younger generation to the older generation, kids would buy their parents, adult children would buy their parents apartments in the city to get their parents closer to them.
Right.
Have now reversed. The family estate has become the safety net in Spain. Many young adult children are moving back to the country and relying on their parents, who may get a pension.
Now, some people who just tuned in are saying, "Is he talking about the United States or Spain?"
Well, that's why it's interesting. I mean, is this in some ways, our future? We look at it as this exotic place with super high unemployment. They have close to 25% unemployment.
A lot of people would say this isn't our future, this is our present.
Well, for a lot of people, it is our present. We have very high unemployment for young people in this country, too.
And this is a good thing when families stay together, when families support each other. This is a good thing. This is what families are supposed to do. But this is putting a wrinkle. This is creating maybe an unnatural, it seems to me, Ted, creating an unnatural diversion or different kind of a wrinkle on the progression of the populating of planet Earth.
Well, it does. I mean, this is the challenge of our age, Jim. It's the family size is smaller. The usual safety nets that we've relied on since World War II, public supports, pensions, are looking weaker and weaker. We expect the traditional forms to kick back in, but when you look over your shoulder, what's left of that traditional form? You have so many childless adults.
Yep.
You have families of one or two. You have children being born into the world who, when they have children, those children will have no brothers and sisters, cousins, uncles, or aunts. And we have to figure out.
Hold on to that thought, Ted. We're going to talk about this, folks, and compare this to the United States, which doesn't have the same problems, but similar problems. 20 after, I'm Jim Blasingame. Ted Fishman is our guest. The book is called Shock of Gray, and it's outstanding.
Insperity presents the Small Business Advocate Show with Jim Blasingame, brought to you by FedEx, CareerBuilder.com, and Palo Alto Software. This is a copyrighted production of Small Business Network, Inc., intended for the private use of our audience. Except as otherwise provided by copyright law, all other copying, redistribution, or publication without prior written consent is prohibited. All rights reserved.